We're coming to you from the DraftKings.com podcasting studios. DraftKings.com, America's one-day fantasy sports site, where it's like a new season every time you play. DraftKings.com.
From ESPN's Pod Center, this is NBA Lockdown.
Welcome into another edition of the NBA Lockdown podcast alongside Ramona Shelbourne and Amin Elhassan. I'm George Sedano. So here we go, guys. We've got the Grizzlies advancing, the Hawks one step closer to advancing. We've got news on Kevin Love, but let's begin with the games yesterday. The Grizzlies advance. We don't know the timetable on Mike Conley. I guess the question is very simple here, is does Memphis really stand a chance with Conley out? I guess the short answer for me would be no, but how do you guys feel about it? Ramona?
No, I'm with you. Mike Conley is one of those guys that he's so underrated offensively, defensively, but mostly just what he means to that team and the way he organizes that team on every level. And it's, I think Nick Kalathis has done a good job out there, but when you're going up against Steph Curry and you're going up against the Warriors, that finely tuned machine that they have up in the Bay Area, like you've got to be firing all cylinders. They could get by the Trailblazers that way. They could win a game or two that way, but I can't see them getting past Golden State in a 4-game series to win in a 7-game and win 4 games in that series without him.
I'm gonna make this real easy. Even with Mike Conley, they don't stand a chance. What are we talking about here?
Yes.
Did you see them play?
I agree.
Hashtag hate hard.
When they played full strength against the Warriors, they got annihilated.
They got crushed.
It's not even close. This is a team that does not shoot enough threes. You have to have some sort of three-point attack to bother the Warriors. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. Now, you take Mike Conley off. Man, this might be over in 3 games. They might just say, hey, that 4th one, forget about it. And that's why, by the way, and that's why I think Conley's not going to be out for the entire season. He's going to come back. He'll come back early, whether it's game 2 or game 3, but he's going to come back. There's going to be a game where they're going to get killed so bad where Conley's like, strap me up. Just put whatever, give me a helmet.
Did you see his face yesterday when he was sitting in the box?
I know.
It looked horrendous. It was scary. Like, so someone tweeted a picture. They photoshopped his head on Kanye West's body when he was in that car accident. And it said, if you could feel how my face felt, you would know how Mace felt. That's exactly what he looked like. He looked like Kanye West after that car accident.
Yeah, he did.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, like the Grizzlies, though, they're playoff tested. They've been deep in the playoffs, but they have a totally different style than the Warriors. And I think they're healthier now than they've been in the past. Like I know in the regular season they didn't really give the Warriors that hard of a time, but playoffs are different, man. Like, and that contrast in style is going to be like they know how to win in the playoffs. They've been all the way to the conference finals before with this group. Like, I'm not ready to say that they're just going to get their butt kicked the whole time. I think there'll be an interesting matchup.
Here's my thing. I think the first of all, success in the playoffs to me is not about having one style and doing it really well. It's about, can I play the most number of styles? That's why San Antonio is so great. It's not because they force you to play their way. It's because they can say, hey, how do you want to play? You want to play small ball? We'll play small ball and we'll beat you at that. You want to play big? You want to play half court? We'll beat you at that too. Those are the teams that are successful, the teams that can be chameleons and be masterful at whatever style. That's what Golden State is. They can play big. They play Bogut out there. They put Green out there and Harrison Barnes and Klay Thompson. They can play small. They play Draymond Green at the 5. They can play Sean Livingston or Harrison Barnes at the 4, et cetera, et cetera. So their ability to play any style and play it really well, I think, supersedes Memphis' ability to play their one style really, really well.
Yeah, and I just think you have to shoot threes nowadays to win. I know Byron Scott doesn't subscribe to that theory, but I think it's pretty obvious if you look at the last 10 years specifically. The teams that are winning championships are teams that are shooting threes at a pretty high volume and obviously connecting at a high volume. And just Memphis is incapable of doing it.
Right. And George, just to piggyback on that point, it's not that people are saying, oh, that means you got to shoot only threes. But even a team like Memphis, where's your strength? Our strength is power and size inside. You got to give those guys space because otherwise everybody's sitting in their lap. They can't even get the ball in there because guards are going to drop back and wings are going to come down and double and hit from the weak side. And you have to make the defense honest. You have to say, hey, you want to cheat? You want to play off guys? Boom. Now you catch this three-pointer from the weak side. Catch this three-pointer from the corner. But if you don't make them respect your shooters, they will sit in the paint all day long, and they like nothing more than for you to try to force passes, because we know there's no team in the league that changes from defense to offense as quickly and as deadly as the Golden State Warriors.
What about the Hawks? They win yesterday, and they look pretty good there the last 2 minutes of the game. I mean, they were blowing them out most of the game, and then they just had a terrible start to the fourth quarter. Jeff Teague got a little dinged up in that game, but was able to come back and finish strong. But they're dealing with a lot of injuries. I mean, look, I don't think they're not going to get past Brooklyn. I think they're going to finish Brooklyn off here. But I'm worried moving forward because they looked so good during the regular season, and now Millsap doesn't necessarily look like the same guy. And I know he's got the shoulder injury. Al obviously has the finger, and now Teague with an ankle. Are you worried at all about them? Amin, we'll start with you.
100%, because basically what the Nets have done is they exposed the Hawks' weakness that we talked about plenty of times in the lead up to the playoffs. We talked about how they don't have size. We talked about how they don't protect the defensive glass well enough. And then finally, the loss of Thabo Sefolosha. That's one less guy that can guard people on the perimeter. That's one less guy who can run a pick and roll when things don't work out well offensively. And so, I still expect the Hawks to be successful versus the Nets, but you move on and you play the Wizards in the next round, and this is a team that is a better version of the Nets. They got a good point guard who doesn't have a one hot game every 4-game average. They got, guys up front who can score and rebound and finish and pick and roll, and they've got pretty good wing play in Paul Pierce and Bradley Beal.
Honestly, it's amazing to me sitting here with the way the Wizards played in the second half of the year that I'm going to say this, or that even worth even thinking it, but it almost feels like the Wizards are going to be favored in this next round. It almost feels like the way that the Hawks have gone, and we're assuming the Hawks get by the Nets. I think they will. I wouldn't be surprised if Brooklyn wins Game 6 and forces a Game 7, but with the way the Hawks just don't look awesome, right? They look like a good team, but they don't look like the favorites or the number one seed in that Eastern Conference. And after the way the Wizards blew out the Raptors in that first round, it looks like they're firing on all cylinders. Well, Atlanta's just sort of trying to rediscover what it had earlier in the year, and I'm never going to count the Hawks out because I just think that they're too talented and they're too good at what they can do when they're doing it well, right? If they find it, they really find it, and I'm not going to count them out. But with the way that the Wizards looked, it's hard for me to think that they're not the favorites, right? And remember when they were back losing in the second half of the year and we were all speculating about Randy Whitman's job? I mean, it doesn't seem like the same team, but that's where we are.
But here's the thing with me. Hold on real quick, Amin. Let me jump in. I think that the Wizards, they look good, but they look good against the Raptors. And the Raptors, to me, and I said this before the series, I didn't feel like they were going to be a formidable opponent because Kyle Lowry's coming off an injury. And he really is the kind of the straw that stirs the drink there for them offensively. And we saw how limited they are. And the fact that, yes, I know they won 47 games or whatever it was during the regular season. We've seen teams like that in the regular season play well and then in the postseason not play as well. Now, I didn't expect them to get swept, but I think a lot of that has to do more with Lowry's injury than anything else. I think he was more hurt than he was letting on.
Nah, man. Don't give him.
Okay, wait, let me finish. Hold on. Let me finish. The point is, I still didn't think they were going to win that series, okay? I still thought Washington was going to win the series. With that said, I think because the Raptors were so bad in that first round, we've got this inflated self-worth of what Washington is. And I think they're going to come crashing down a little bit here in the second round when they play a team like Atlanta, because I don't trust them defensively. And as Ramona said, if Atlanta can get what they've got going again, which I think we saw it at least at the end of that game last night, if they can become more consistent that way and Korver can hit shots and they can knock down those open shots that they've been missing, because in Game 4, I think they hit 30% of uncontested jumpers, okay? That's not going to happen very often with that particular team. I happen to think Atlanta's still going to beat Washington. I don't think it's going to be an easy situation, but I don't even think it goes 7 in that particular series.
Is there any feeling at all, any desire to see the Brooklyn Nets win this series just so we can see Darren Williams versus Paul Pierce? Am I the only one rooting for this?
Yeah, you're the only one. Yeah.
Come
no,
on.
I mean, I'll go with you on that one.
Yeah,
I like the fact that the number 8 seed in that horrible Western Conference this year, they don't look like an 8 seed. I mean, this is a veteran team where like Joe Johnson can get it going, Darren Williams can get it going. I mean, Brooke Lopez can get. I mean, plus Lionel Hollins, obviously, he's had success in the playoffs before. I like it when teams just come out of nowhere. Although I almost don't want to see them rewarded for having such a bad regular season, but. But with the veterans they have on that team, I mean,
Kyle Korver said it, right?
I don't know.
Kyle Korver said there's a reason why they're making all that money, and it was like kind of a backhanded compliment, but it's still like, these guys. I'm not saying they're worth it, but at one time or another, Darren Williams, Joe Johnson, Brooke Lopez, these guys are considered some of the top 20 players in the league. Really, if you think
they were a big three. They were a big three at one point.
Somewhere,
not so big though anymore.
Not so much, but no, Oh, man, it's tough because I'm with you, Ramona. I don't want to see a team that really was half-tailing it all year long get rewarded and find their way in the second round of the playoffs. But the hate heart in me, I want to see the Paul Pierce, Darren Williams thing play out. I want to see whether it's Paul Pierce being proven right or it's Darren Williams having the greatest success of his life and overcoming the odds and slaying the dragon, so to speak. But I think it's just it would be hilarious to watch.
Well, plus the Twitter game, I mean, during that series, if that's what it was, would be amazing.
Oh man,
I'm going to tell you this: you talk about the red carpet being rolled out for you at certain arenas. The red carpet will never be rolled out for you in Atlanta. I want you to know this already.
No, you know what? Hey, just yesterday I tweeted: was it wrong for me to say I want the Hawks to make the finals? So that, because I'm going to go to the finals, I want to see the organist, Sir Foster, play in person. This guy's great. He plays all the hits, and he plays them, from what I understand, he plays it by ear. He hears a song one time, and he gets on his organ, and he plays it. That's probably the best thing about the Hawks. Is
you're doing that experience. You're doing that Hulk Hogan thing again. You did
hate hard.
What am I doing?
You're doing the Hulk Hogan thing you did on my radio show. Yes, you're doing the thing you did on my radio show the other day where you're cupping your hand to your ear and you want all the crowd to cheer you. But if they're actually listening to the words that are coming out of your mouth when we're talking basketball, they're not going to buy that. They're not going to buy you trying to sit there and make them believe that you're on their side because of their organist when you're talking the way you're talking about their basketball team.
Hey, man, I got nothing but love for the city of Atlanta.
So anyway, all right, last piece of news. Well, actually, we got a couple pieces of news to get into, but the first one we'll get into is Kevin Love out 4 to 6 months, had surgery, tweeted out the picture with the thumbs up in the Cleveland hat. Here's my thing on this. I guess it just depends on your perspective. If you want Kevin Love in Cleveland, I think this is a blessing in disguise because now, because of the injury, I think there's no question he opts in for the one more year. And at worst, that's the case. Maybe he even does a 1 and a 1, a 2-year deal with a 1-year opt-out, which is basically the same thing anyway. But I think it kind of reassures you that Kevin Love will likely be in Cleveland next season.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're talking about 4 to 6 months. It's pretty much May 1st today, so we're talking about you come back for camp. That's the conservative, or excuse me, the very optimistic prognosis is you're back by training camp. You'll miss all summer long. You probably wouldn't have touched a basketball. It is to your shoulder. You make your bones in this league, A, as a shooter, and B, as a dude who's banging dudes around under the rim, grabbing rebounds. I just don't see a scenario where that sounds like a good idea to opt out and try to get paid, especially when the cap is going to explode in a year and you're better off being a free agent a year from now anyway. The one scenario, again, like you said, George, that I could see is if he's come to agreement with Cleveland to do the LeBron deal. Give me a 2-year deal, player option on a second deal, on the second year, and that way I can make more money next year, but also, keep my flexibility options open.
But I don't know. Honestly, we say this, in the first week after that injury. We say that right after surgery, and that's how things look. But when you finally get to June 30th and you have to make that decision whether you opt in or stay, I think things look differently with the passage of time, right? Once we'll know how the playoffs play out, once we know, I mean, it's interesting how it affects everybody else's planning, because I think before this, I would have said, you could probably count on him becoming a free agent this summer and at least getting to make your pitch if you're the Knicks or the Lakers or the Suns or the Celtics, right? Now, I don't know that he will, but I think we're also saying that a week afterwards, like right in the emotion of it. Like things just look differently when you've had some time to digest it all.
But Ramona, here's my thing. If this had happened in March, maybe, but it's like I said, surgery happened yesterday. So today's April 30th.
Yeah.
June 30th is literally 2 months away. So there's no timetable.
At best, he's halfway through the rehab
there's no
process,
timetable.
right?
Even in the most optimistic sense, he's still like not touching basketballs and not doing contact drills.
Yeah, but this isn't Wes Matthews who's an Achilles. I mean, this is a shoulder injury that it's going to heal. He'll be fine for the start of training camp. I mean, he has plenty of time to get ready. I'm not worried about his long-term recovery on this. I mean, with an Achilles injury, you worry about that. But I just think you'll be able to separate the emotion and the disappointment of not competing in the playoffs or not. I know there'll be a question of does he get credit for for anything if they win, right? If he'll still get his ring, but it won't really satisfy that sense that he wasn't really a part of the playoff run, right? And I don't know. I think after time has passed, things look differently, and you have to make a decision independent of that situation. I mean, I think the fact that he even went ahead with surgery as quickly as he did was interesting. Like, if he was that concerned about legacy, I don't know how severe it was, but it was a non-shooting shoulder. If you're concerned with legacy, maybe you just wait till the end of the playoffs and see how it feels then and try to play, and then have the surgery if you can, right? But the fact that he had that decision, that he had that surgery right away, tells me something.
Yeah, I mean, it was a torn labrum, so I mean, it's one of those things where the idea that it would have healed in time would have been, again, incredibly optimistic. But I do think you make a great point in that what happens to the team, interestingly enough, from here on out, kind of has an effect, has an impact. And the idea that, I'll take it the opposite way. What if they don't do well? What if they lose to the Bulls in the second round? All of a sudden, people are saying, well, we've been ragging on Kevin Love all year long, but come to find out, even his diluted contribution, diluted based on what he did last year as the star of his own team, it still was very, very important to this Cleveland team, not only in terms of production of points and rebounds, but also you just talked about with the Grizzlies, 3-point shooting. The idea that that guy's out there as a defender, I have to pay attention. I have to devote at least some of my mental energy to making sure where he is and making sure I can get there in time. And if he's not out there, it makes life a lot easier for me as a defender.
I mean, when I look at the Cavs this year, though, like I don't think, even if they win, like you know that, right? Like, in the advanced stats will tell us that, and opponents will tell us that, but just narrative speaking, I don't feel he was going to be the guy who was just there, right? I mean, he was the guy who didn't fit in all year. It took a while. I mean, unless he had an epic playoffs, which he was playing well in the playoffs, right? Unless he had those moments, I don't think he was going to get a ton of credit. I think what's interesting, though, about Kevin Love at the Cavs is that I've always thought he's kind of like an ink blot test, right? When you look at him,
Rorschach test?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I covered him all the way since UCLA, right? And Ben Howland, when he looked at Kevin Love, he told him to bulk up and be a center, right? When he got to the NBA, they told him to drop 35 pounds and be a stretch four, right? When he's in Minnesota, he's a stat stuffer. When he's in Cleveland, he's standing out there shooting threes. Like, he's just a different player depending on what you see in him, what traits you see in him. And I think we just kind of leave off with an incomplete from this year, no matter what.
You have a way with words, Ramona.
That's why she's a writer.
That's the job, isn't it?
Yeah. So let me ask you this real quick. If they fall short, I mean, look, this team was built to win a championship, and if they fall short of expectations, did we learn enough from the Miami situation 4 years ago or whatever it was, that we're okay with giving them a pass? Or because I feel like if Miami, the year they lost Bosh, who was lost to an abdominal injury for a stretch in that early in the Indiana series, came back midway through that Boston series, and they ended up winning the title that year against OKC. Had they not won the title, we would have ridiculed them in general. Now, have we learned enough to say that we have more patience with this particular squad?
I mean, to me, I think yes, because this team was not as accomplished as that team. as individuals or as a unit. So, and considering the struggles that they went through the first 2 months of the year, for them to even be in this position, a 2 seed, and spoken of as high favorites to come out of the East before the playoffs even started, I just think that in and of itself is a win. And you just go into next year, you hope you can bring Love back, you hope he's healthy, you go into camp, maybe you remix that playbook to have him more heavily featured, to get him a little bit more involved and not just be a decoy or a dummy out there. And you go, and then from there, that's where expectations start. But right now, this season is a success for me in Cleveland based on where they started.
Wow.
Right.
Wow, Amin. You are so nice. I mean, honestly, every single season LeBron James plays for the rest of his NBA career, he will be favored to win.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just his reality. Like, you have all this perspective and this sense of, balance, right? I mean, with the struggles they went through early in the year, they're going to take some time to come together. All of those are totally true, but you know how expectations are, right? You know how the public and the narrative is.
Ramona's about to hit me with the dagger right now. So yeah, that's nice. That's nice in your little dream world, but this is the real world.
Nice.
Yeah, in the real world.
I was in if I was in the Cavs locker room, I would want you making that speech. Yeah. However, like in the other world that we all live in on SportsCenter and on social media and in the NBA, I mean, I just think, like, if they don't win a title this year, it's seen as a disappointment. It just is. Like, even before they went out and got Kevin Love and all the other pieces that they added to that team, LeBron went home to Cleveland. He left a team that had been to the finals 4 years in a row. He went home to Cleveland. He had a co-star in Kyrie Irving. From the second he did that, the expectations were there for him to win and bring a title to the area of Cleveland, to Northeast Ohio, right? I mean, like, any year he doesn't do that is going to be seen as a disappointment, and I think he'll be the first to tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think they'll get, and obviously the Bosh thing that I was referring to is in year 2, but and they'd already lost to Dallas, but I agree with Ramona. It will be a disappointment. I just don't think it would be received the same way as when the Heat lost to Dallas, where everybody was openly rooting against them.
Yeah.
That's not the case because he returned home, and there's that narrative, you know.
Because George believes everybody hates Miami, the city. It's not just the Heat team.
We all hate Miami.
Look, they didn't throw a disco party when he got to Cleveland. I mean,
what? They didn't throw a disco party, but he did do a pretty big deal when he went back to Akron. Like, they had a pretty big event for him.
And they had the concert on opening night.
It was like a football stadium.
The first game. Right, the first game was treated like it was. They did have a concert, actually. The first game.
And then they lost to the Knicks. That should be the worst. Right. Like, that should be way
that's
worse.
Actually worse.
Oh, that's true. And you know that Nike commercial? Commercial. At the beginning of the season, it was so dramatic, right? It was like
Cleveland, 1, 2, 3. Yeah,
Cleveland. I mean, that's just gonna play forever, right? When you put that, it wasn't quite, not 5, not 6, not 7. I mean, it wasn't quite the disco party with that kind of guarantee, but I mean, he raised the stakes himself. I don't think he was afraid of it, and like, I think that's one thing with LeBron you got to give him credit for. Like, he knows it's gonna be that way, and he doesn't run from it. Like, I think he just embraces it, and plays it. It is what it is, yeah.
His whole life.
So he was 15.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly. But, I think it'll be a disappointment. It won't be received the same way, though. All right, well, let's leave it here. We get, coming up in 60 seconds, we'll get into the Rookie of the Year award, Andrew Wiggins, plus the latest on Billy Donovan, and maybe some hate hard going on, some hate hardness going on in Houston. That's all next on the NBA Lockdown Podcast.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Welcome back to the NBA Lockdown Podcast alongside Ramona Shelbourne and Amin Elhassan. I'm George Sedano. All right, so Andrew Wiggins, Rookie of the Year. Problem, no problem? You're good with it? You're not good with it? Where are we on it?
Go ahead,
I voted for Andrew Wiggins. I mean, I didn't think he was a runaway winner, but he's a good choice.
Yeah, no, I 100% I concur.
Me too.
You could make an argument for some of those other guys, but I don't think anyone will be upset that Andrew Wiggins was Rookie of the Year. And to be honest, even though this shouldn't be part of the evaluation process, if I ask you who's the best player in this rookie class, who's going to be the best player moving forward, I think we'd all say Andrew Wiggins, right? So then,
I would agree with that.
All right then. So it's not a big reach there for us to say he was the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I know the analytics community.
Another vote, but
yeah, I mean, Mirotic was good. He had a great season. I would have given him Rookie of the Year because I think doing it on a team where you have to fight for your minutes, where you have to earn your playing time, and where you guys are playing for something, that means something. But at the same time, I'm not gonna raise a stink. I'm not gonna start a protest because he didn't win Rookie of the Year. Wiggins was a fine.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know the analytics community liked Elfrid Payton too, but I'm not gonna sit here and freak out because Andrew Wiggins got it. So Billy Donovan, you and I have talked about this a lot on this podcast and on the radio show. So Ramona, let's get your thoughts. Billy Donovan to OKC. Amin and I understand why Billy would go. We just don't necessarily feel like it's the right fit necessarily, especially under all the circumstances going on in OKC. How do you feel about it?
Well, look, I know Billy Donovan's work, right? I don't know him personally, and I've been reading up and making calls all around, just trying to get caught up on why it is. Other than the fact that he's been successful in college and developed a lot of players, there's something about him, and the thing that keeps coming back to me in terms of, when you talk to people who played for him, who know him, who deal with him, he's got a magnetic personality. He's sort of an early adopter of analytics. He seems like he's a good X's and O's guy, but I think whatever it is he's gonna be a guy that when you're the Thunder, I think they got to the stage with Scotty Brooks, not so much that he's not a good coach or whatever it is, but they just need a different voice. They need somebody who's going to challenge those guys. They need somebody who's going to do things differently, at least. Whatever Sam Presti saw in him, whatever he sees and whatever he only had eyes for Billy Donovan. I mean, every sense I've gotten he's been locked in on him for a long time, and at some point you kind of just have to trust, like, why was he so locked in on him? I didn't quite get it with Steve Kerr last year. Now we do, right? Now we really do. So, we'll see when Billy gets to the league. I've heard great things about him. I've heard, just in terms of the personality and his will, I think he has a chance to really bond with Durant and Westbrook. And what they were going for is somebody who could create an environment real quick and bond with the two stars that make them want to stay. Do something different with them, but also give them a picture for the future of what things will be like. I think Billy's capable of doing that. Obviously, he's created a great culture down there in Gainesville. See what he can do in Oklahoma City. I don't know it because I don't know the man, but everything I've heard, there's enough to give him a good chance, I guess.
Yeah, this is what I call hipster decision making. Like, I can't hire an obvious or a regular choice. I have to show people how smart I am. I'm going to find something that you didn't see coming. Billy Donovan, whoa! And then we all sit back and we all marvel about how smart they are. To me, Billy Donovan is not as egregious a choice if you're a rebuilding team, if you are trying to create a new culture, if you're moving forward from this era, sure. But you have the most artificial of championship windows. Because not only is this, hey, we got to win now because we're ready to win now, and because now all these injuries have put mortality in our mind that this thing isn't forever, but one guy's got free agency at the end of this year, the other guy's free agency at the end of the next year. You really don't have any room for error, margin for error for learning on the job or adjustment or whatever, and I think that's the big difference. It's the big difference between Brad Stevens and David Blatt and all those guys when they got hired. And it's also even when you talk about Steve Kerr, because you look at that Warriors team last year, nobody said this is a championship caliber team. Nobody. I don't care how big of a Warriors fan you are. Steve Kerr's my boy. I didn't think it was a championship caliber team. But he came in and he created that. Billy Donovan is not going to come in and create that expectation. That expectation already exists because of the caliber of talent they have on that roster. I think it's a little unfair to ask him to kind of learn on the job under those circumstances. But hey,
well, he'll be highly compensated. The man, he's gonna be making $4 million. He makes $4 million a year now in tax-free Florida, right? Man. So it's gonna take a lot to get him there. I would guess when we hear that contract, I would think. $6-7 million a year. You let him worry about that.
Ramona,
you let him worry about the expectations.
Ramona just hit me with the
obvious.
Ramona just hit me with the "Don't cry for me, Argentina."
I
The
mean,
truth is I never left you.
look, he's had chances to go to the NBA several times over the years, right? Obviously, last year with Cleveland and and with Minnesota, he's waited for the right opportunity. It's for whatever reason, I don't know if he just got tired of competing with Kentucky every year in that SEC, or if this feels like the team, but. He's willing to take it on, and he's going to be highly compensated for that. So you don't worry about him.
He did have that one stint with Orlando that lasted like 7 minutes. So there was that one. It's the team that Stan Van Gundy then led to the finals.
Yeah,
so I mean, I guess it worked out for Orlando regardless.
He had the bottle of Dasani, and then he took off. Like, thanks for the water, guys. I'm going back to Gainesville.
Yeah, that didn't work out so well. So hopefully it lasts longer than that for OKC and Sam Presti's sake. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be asked of him in a very short amount of time. Hey, I know you're a great recruiter, but you're going to have to recruit these two guys we have on the team to make sure they stick around in the next year and in 2 years. I don't know. And again, I think the biggest criticism on the basketball floor of Scott Brooks, I think, was, hey, you're not very imaginative on offense. When I think Billy Donovan, I don't necessarily think offensive genius. So I think in that regard too, I'm a little skeptical there. So.
Well, who would you hire? I mean, like, is there an obvious veteran coach out there?
I would have hired Mike D'Antoni.
Whoa. Oh, man.
I know that listen, I think he gets a bad rap because he coached for two really dysfunctional organizations in the Lakers and Knicks. But I think he's a good coach.
Yeah.
No, he's a fantastic. Look, Mike D'Antoni is an offensive genius, but the one thing, like, his strength is creating that. But you gotta, in terms of handling egos and handling stars. I mean, he was great he's a great coach when he has got a great leader. When he's got a guy like Steve Nash who can police that locker room and create that culture. But I don't know if that's Mike's strong suit in terms of creating that himself and the egos that are between Westbrook and Durant. That's a lot to ask for Mike.
Yeah, my pick was Alvin, but I guess.
I pick Alvin for any job that's open. But I don't know if you can sell that one. I think Alvin Gentry, whatever job he gets, I hope it's the right one for the next one, because you look at that record, but it's because he had bad teams at certain points in his career. But I hope he gets a look in Orlando. I hope he gets a look all over the league, because that guy, I mean, you know him from Phoenix. Yeah. I mean, I know sometimes you take too many jobs and you take too many interviews, your name you don't have a hot name anymore. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I just don't know if that's the kind of coach they could sell in OKC.
I think they could. I don't know if his personality and their culture meshes. They're serious. We're serious.
In other words, he says too much. In other words, he's too honest.
Well, obviously that's one of the hallmarks of Alvin. But I think even more importantly, Alvin's a very lighthearted guy. He finds a way, even when things are really looking down. He knows how to find a sense of. He has a sense of humor, silver lining. And Oklahoma City seems to me like, well, we're very serious here. We push our glasses up the bridge of our nose, and we don't take this as a laughing matter. And I don't know if those cultures fit. But go ahead, George.
Speaking of being serious, thank God that Amin doesn't work for the Rockets as their social media director, because he may have been fired a long time ago. The Rockets social media guy was let go after he put out a tweet that, look, I didn't think the tweet was, I didn't think it was that big a deal. I didn't think it was a fireable offense. It was a dumb tweet where he tweeted something like, shh, this won't hurt, or something like that. And he had an emoji of a horse for the Mavericks and a gun. It'll all be over soon. Right. And look, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. I think a stern talking to, maybe firing the guy, I thought was kind of over the top and silly. I did like the fact that Levitard and those guys had Daryl Morey on yesterday and just pounded him on that. And he was like, guys, I didn't fire the guy. I don't work on that side. It was kind of funny to listen to. But it seems like it went a little too far here, right? I mean, you of all people, I would imagine, would be on the side of the social media guy.
Hold on. That's my cape. I'm caping for the guy. His name is Chad Shanks. I believe it's Chad J. Shanks is his Twitter handle. I'm caping for you, my man, Chad. You getting let go for that is just – first of all, you got to put something in perspective. Chad's been on that account for 4 years, and resoundingly, I talked to several people. They all say the same thing. The Rockets account is one of the more creative accounts. The Rocket account is one of the ones that everyone really likes because it gives it a personality, and it's not just Rockets up 5 entering the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Let's go Rockets. Like, those are boring. I'm sorry. And I get he's representing the brand. The part of representing the brand is making it stand out. from all the other noise on our timeline, and he did a good job of that. That tweet, okay, it was harsh. Maybe it was a little too much for a corporate account, but fireable? Come on, man.
I didn't think so.
Okay, let me tell you something. I'm not defending it. I'm not going to say that they should have fired. I don't think they should have. I think it was too far. The problem, I think he got in trouble with the emoticons. Like, it's the horse and the gun. That was the part that went a little, what he wrote was funny, but it was the emoticons, right? But here's the rule in life, okay? Everyone is expendable until, unless you're a star. Everyone is expendable. I mean, I love the Rockets account. That was one of my favorite team accounts to follow. I like the Hawks account. I like the Trailblazers account. The Warriors account's kind of fun too.
Right.
But they'll just find another millennial who's got some snark.
I get it.
Like that.
I get it, but
I feel bad saying that, but it's like they can find somebody else who can do it.
But Ramon, like here are two things. One, I felt like part of the reason why it became such a big deal was because the Mavs social media manager, because people forget sometimes, they think that the Dallas Mavericks organization took offense, and that's why they sent out that tweet that's not in good taste. No, it wasn't the Mavericks organization. It's the dude behind the computer running that account. And because he got a little hurt, he sends out a tweet, and it becomes a much bigger deal than if he had just, pick up a phone and call a dude, or send him a DM, or send an email like, dude, that's not cool. And he would have taken it down, I think. But I think, this idea, the public shaming, this whole idea that I don't like what you did and I will publicly shame you and everyone will now judge you, and the organization as a result feels like, well, all this public shaming is going on. We only have one recourse. We can't suspend them. We can't sternly talk to them. We can't even fine them. We can't do any of these things. We have to fire him. Why? Because the mob wants blood.
We live in a world.
I don't think the mob really wanted it. I think they overreacted. Like, I don't think he had to be fired. I just think it was just easy enough to fire him because he's not a star and they could find somebody else. He's replaceable, right? But like when I read the tweet, like I think right in the 2 or 3 minutes right after a team's season is over, there's just certain things you don't say, right? Like I think I made some stupid joke like, remember Dirk had that turnover? It was just like a weird turnover at the end of the game. Like it was basically like a pick six, right? And I put some tweet out like it was like Tony Romo throwing a pick six, right? I mean, the Mavs fans they just crushed me, and it was like so mean, right? It wasn't even just like normally it's like there's some LOLs and there's some emoticons with people crying.
People are angry.
I mean, people started calling me names, and I was like, whoa, that was so not a name calling offense. Like that was not even a harsh tweet. Like Dirk would probably tell you that, man, that was a bad turnover. It wasn't like but in the moment when your season's about to end, people get real sensitive. Like if
people catch
give
feelings.
It a minute.
That's exactly what it is. People catch feelings. But look, man, I think we live in a world, Ramona, where it's like we try to outrage each other now. Like that's just, even over something as silly as this. That's just kind of the way it works. But all right, well, that'll do it for us, Ramona. Always great catching up with you. Thanks for stopping by.
You too.
All right, cool. Thanks to Ramona. Thanks to Amin. I'm George Sedano. Make sure you tune in to the podcast again tomorrow. Again, 5 days a week, weekdays, Monday through Friday. The NBA Lockdown podcast is here. Check out Ramona's work on .com and on SportsCenter. Check out Amin's work on .com and on SportsCenter and his Hate Hard movement on Twitter. And make sure you check out my radio show, 7 to 9 Eastern on ESPN Radio, and download that podcast as well, too, if you can. We got a lot of basketball talk there, too. So that'll do it for us. You guys enjoy the games, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. See ya.
Thanks for listening to NBA Lockdown on ESPN Radio. For more great podcasts, check out the Pod Center page on ESPNradio.com.